Welcome, listener, to another episode of Spam Humbug. This is episode 140A or B or part 2 or however you want to think about it. Let's go with part 2 because that's a little bit more in keeping with how the Ultimas were numbered and parted out, in at least the case of Ultima 7. And as you can well imagine, given that it is part 2 of episode 140, we have the continuation of a very interesting discussion for you this week, because of course this is the second part of the Dr. Cat episode. Dr. Cat, of course, joined the podcast for a recording session, about a month ago now. And that conversation went on for a goodly long time. In fact, the total amount of recorded audio was close to 6 hours. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be releasing a third part of episode 140 or if I'm going to consign much of the rest of the discussion to Patreon. Just something for the backers there to treat themselves to. I don't know yet, but at any rate, this particular part of the discussion covers... it starts actually with Draxneth discussing Record of the Dragon Goddess, her ongoing project and sort of the drive to make each character feel different. Warframe, a game that Drax plays quite extensively, also comes up, discussing music-based weapons of one of the characters. And Dr. Cat, of course, compares this to a Lindsay Sterling video where she is like an Old West gunfighter fighting people with her violin music. There's a brief discussion of, the impacts of the ongoing pandemic and lockdowns on things like food supply and grocery store supply. But that prompts Kat to note that, the Fricadia web client has actually been made accessible to everybody now. So there'll be a link in the show notes for where you can check that out if you want to. They still need to wrap it up and make an app out of it. But, the web client is up there even so for everybody to try out. There was actually an interesting discussion. I don't know how I'm going to incorporate this. I might have to include some samples in the show notes. But there was some interesting artwork swapping going on in the chat, in the Discord chat, while they were discussing it. Drax and Cat kind of swapping sketches back and forth. And then, in a complete shift of topic, because, hey, this is Spam Humbug, we talk about how game sales are up. Talk about things like, Jedi Fallen Order, 5 million copies pushed by sold by Animal Crossing. At the time that we recorded this, it, of course, went up since then, although apparently it has now been supplanted by Minecraft Dungeons on the Switch charts. Minecraft Dungeons was recently released. I've been playing it. I enjoyed it a great deal. We don't talk about that in this episode, but just for the record, it apparently has topped Animal Crossing for sales, at least this week. And then... who should join the podcast but Cran? Sir Klaus also chimes in at about the same time. But Cran actually joins us for another podcast. We haven't had her on in a goodly long while. Harmony Dragon makes it in as well. There's discussions about kosher bacon. Apparently that's a thing. We talk about allergy struggles. We talk about Coca-Cola. And Dr. Cat blows my mind by confirming what I suspected to be true, but could never really find evidence for, and that concerns glass bottle Coca-Cola. Listen for it in the episode. It's jaw-dropping, at least to me. We talk about like honey and the different flavors of how you can pitch the flavor of honey depending on what kind of flowers you let the bees have. We talk about exercise and challenges to keep fit in these crazy lockdown pandemic-y times. Some of the challenges that attend social distancing. We talk about scouting, because of course I'm part of this part of the podcast. We talk about providing a social outlet for kids, especially when sports are canceled and they can't just go over and hang out with their friends. Talk about some of the restrictions loosening proposals that have come up. Talk about go back to food supply. We talk about panic buying and face masks, and get into cybersecurity and challenges of parenting, especially in this age when your kids have to be more connected than ever just to keep their schoolwork up. And then thankfully someone starts talking about Dragon Quest XI, I think Klaus, and that's kind of where the episode ends on. So at least we come back to a gaming topic. But hey, it's a Dr. Cat episode. It's a Spam Humbug episode. It's Dr. Cat on Spam Humbug. We have a plethora of topics. Just truly a plethora of topics. Of course, we are hosted on Anchor.fm now, a newer, not so new anymore. We've been on Anchor for a little while. But it's, a more socially minded, socially focused podcast hosting platform. Started out kind of almost as like a Twitter for audio clips, but then kind of morphed over into a podcast platform, although it's kept some of the social aspects. You can, of course, follow us in the Anchor app. You can like us. You can like individual episodes. Please do share them with your social media circles. And hey, drop us a voice message in the Anchor app if you feel so inclined. We will work you into the episode, I promise. As always, of course, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by our Patreon backers, patreon.com/ultimacodex, if you want to join that hearty crew. And I may even have some bonus content to actually release to backers for the first time in forever too long. But thank you to everyone who supports the podcast and the Codex by that means. And as always, a hearty thank you to our co-producers, Seth, Golden Flame, Chris, Dominic, Violation, Cranberry, Christopher, Bruce, Darkwraith Dragon, Helgruff, Gronk, Pascal, and Thorwin. All right, that's enough for me. Let's get on with the show.
If you're going to make games, you should know as many different fields of knowledge as you can. I'm excited now. My new close friend, Dr. Bird, who's making video games for parrots and other birds, literally. She's writing her PhD thesis in part on that.
Wow.
She's got all this animal behaviorist background. So, people in the game industry know about like Pavlov, and Skinner boxes and condition response. Like you talk about random loot boxes. One of the things we know from B.F. Skinner is if you give animals rewards with some randomness to it, rather than just 3 lever presses equals 1 pellet, predictable as anything. You put some random. It's like 15% chance of a food pellet when you press the lever. It works better. You get stronger response from the animal. They train better to do the activity. So that's one of the reasons that we were using randomness in games before we knew that, because we had all these cool dice we could include with games and stuff. But I want to consult with her. I've already asked her some questions. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how we schedule these things where we give you something to come back and play again after a certain amount of time. I'm thinking about different things about the timer. What does animal behavior research say on this subject? And she tell me. So it's a totally different perspective than engineers and 3D artists have. But it's a useful one. So
Lots of different fields of study can be applied to games.
Yeah. Do any of you follow Manda's Facebook?
I do.
Yeah, you never know what Manda's going to post on there. She's she's a brilliant game designer. She wants to know about everything, so she goes out and learns about it. Card weaving, I know nothing about card weaving, but Manda does.
I left Facebook at this point. Yeah. It's been kind of nice actually, but I miss out on a lot of good people.
And I was playing game Shin Megami Tensei 4, and it's a game where you fight demons, but you can also recruit them for them to fight for you.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like Pokemon and that kind of game, and you can. They are sort of cyberspace demons. Because you have a bracelet, and then you have some software which helps you fuse them. There's a fusion software on which you fuse 2 demons and get a completely different demon.
Oh yeah, man, games like that. She wanted me to do a dinosaur breeding game with her.
Yeah, and one of the things that this game has, when you interact with demons trying to recruit them, you sort of deal with them. You try to get their favor. They ask something, and you comply sometimes, but sometimes you have to. You can't be 100% compliant, because if you are, then they just get bored of you and decide to kill you. And you have to fight them and kill them.
Wow!
But if they ask something, you comply, and then they chat a little with you, and they ask for something else, and you refuse. They sort of try to to bargain, and then it's a sort of a tug of war with them,
Hmm.
between complying and demanding something from them, and there's a point where they decide to join you.
Hmm.
And it has a lot of randomness on it. You never know when a demon is going to just decide that you're
Yeah.
not worth its time, even if you comply at first. Or sometimes they expect you to be demanding at first, and you never know what's gonna be.
Sounds like maybe they have a little too much randomness.
Yeah, but if you figure out what's the first interaction, you have a much higher chance
Okay.
to recruit them. If you know that if you act demanding something from them, and that was what they were expecting, then you know that the next time they ask something from you, you can be compliant, and they might start liking you and join you, or it
Hmm.
might be the other way around. And there's a sort of a and there are some signs and things that the there's a way they express themselves, and you can read the situation to an extent and try to figure out what to do, but there's still randomness on it.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and other things, one of the game project I've been working on, it's been years and years, and I've redesigned a lot of things, a lot of parts from it. Uh, one of the things I've been doing is trying to get each character to feel different, have different things. One of the characters is a musician. She's a bard with necromantic powers, and she has two different instruments. One of them is a magical fiddle, and the other is a magical guitar, and she uses them as weapons. And I've been trying to work out some sort of system where the player can chain different attacks which produce different notes, and have those notes, the order, make different effects and stuff.
Hmm. So
And
what's the name of this game you're working on?
it's the still working on the title, but the full working title right now is Record of the Dragon Goddess. uh
Okay.
part First part, Athalas Mausoleum. Atala is one of the main characters,
Okay.
and this is still a work in progress. And
Yeah.
this character, the necromantic bard,
Hmm.
uh, she has this powers of with the weapons, music, and her music is able to raise the dead and that kind of thing. And it's also able to uh, dispel magic or disrupt magical energies. And there it's a magical fiddle and a magical guitar, and
Yeah.
but the sounds that they're going to have is from an electric violin and electric
Mhm.
guitar.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I wish I'd been
Yeah,
able to incorporate music, that deeply into the gameplay on some of my
yeah,
games. I haven't really had much opportunity to do that, but I'd still like to someday.
yeah. I have been exploring a game. It's called Warframe. One of the Warframes is called Octavia, and her powers are based on music. There's a sort of weapon she has which allows you to set up a sort of music, and depending on well, you can set it up. It's like a sort of a track, and you set up the track, and you make music with that ball, and you throw it, and the ball is producing music, and that music, each note, each different sound has a different effect. can be different attacks. It can be chained effects and stuff. It's something I'm thinking of digging deeper into it to see if because it's really interesting. It's a really fun and different mechanic from other
Oh yeah,
Warframe.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cool things you can do with that.
Oh man,
Yeah,
Warframe's
that
changed so much.
Warframe is shooting and attacking everything, and there's this thing rolling around, producing music, and and all the enemies around it are getting hurt with the music.
Cool. Did you ever see the music video by Lindsay Sterling where she was like a Western gunfighter, but she fought with like the sound coming from her violin instead of a gun?
I've seen that.
No.
Oh, you need to check that one out. I'll dig up a link and I'll paste it in the chat for you.
Mm.
After that, I think I'm probably going to have to head out here. I still have a bit more work to get done on the Goldbergs tonight.
Yeah, it's already getting late here too, and I gotta be up early. I got a meeting with one of the food manufacturers I work with.
Oh, cool. Well, you keep the food flowing. That's what everybody needs.
Shortages is a thing, unfortunately, and it's getting a little tough sometimes. I feel bad for the farmers because a lot of them are out a lot of money.
Yeah, no,
I'm working with food as well.
I was reading an interview with a farmer where they were talking about how we're still raising the crops and the livestock, but if the processors aren't enough of them working to buy it from us, then there's nothing we can do. You got to keep those processors going somehow. And it was, out of his control, obviously.
Yeah, I'm working with food as well. Because of the quarantine and the pandemic, the sales for the farm market, the local farm market, which is the one it's the one that supplies a lot of restaurants and stores and grocery stores and everything. It's a sort of like a produce market. They are having a lot less customers because of this. So I'm working along with a team. We founded a small, it's a small project. We're small entrepreneurs. We are working on a website for people to purchase from that market, from the produce market, and we take care of we're taking care of developing the web page and also the delivery service.
Okay, here it is. Roundtable Rival. I just pasted the link into the SSSH chat for you. You might get a little inspiration for your musical character powers from that. It's a really fun video too.
Oh yeah, she does great work.
Yeah, no, I love all her videos, and I see there's a newer one I haven't seen yet, so I'm going to be watching that after I go. Yeah, she's brilliant. She's just brilliant. Yeah, I should paste the link. Our Furcadia web client is accessible to everybody now too. Let me just throw a link to that in here for you all if you want to look at it while you're stuck at home or whatever. It's my baby. How old is Furcadia now? We're turning 24 later this year, I think.
Time flies, and it's just getting
24.
faster.
Yeah. I'm glad we finally got the web client fully, available to everyone. We still need to put a little more spit and polish on it, but it's out there. We need to get a mobile skin for it next. There's a thing you can do where if you have a web game or web app, you could put a wrapper around it so you can put it on the App Store for iPhone and Android, and people can download it instead of having to navigate to your web page or do a bookmark. They just tap the app and then they launch your web app like it was a normal app as far as they know. If it's an HTML5 app, they might never even realize that they're actually, connecting to it through the web. So we might repackage it for mobile there. Oh, now Cranberry says I should be there in a little while. So do I stick around for Cranberry or do I ditch on her?
Yeah, I really wanted to catch her too.
What's that?
I said I really wanted to catch her too because I so rarely get a chance to talk to her.
Yeah. Well, Okay, maybe I'll stick around and see if she shows up.
I'll give her a couple more minutes, but that's it.
Yeah, please do. She's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, when I returned to the Dragons after a break for years, after some certain life events happened and whatnot, she was one of the first ones that was all excited to have me back.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, well, she's excited about all the dragons. She wants to meet every dragon. Wow, that's her love.
Yeah, when she still lived in the Philly area.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to try to go out and visit her and Fiona, but I never did get a chance. So.
Yeah, no, I got to see them in New York. We went over to Lord British's house, and then we went to the Museum of Illusions. That was a lot of fun. We actually got
still on the list of ones to meet when I go out east one of these next times.
Yeah. So where are you living currently?
Yeah,
I'm still in the Midwest, in Wisconsin.
I pasted a couple pictures.
Yeah, I like those.
Initial design and then the sprite I created. That's the character and the music powers.
If you guys want to see a picture, I could post my latest art commission of me that I had a friend in San Antonio draw for me.
Sure.
There might be some I gotta do. That's that isn't too racy. Where did that thing go?
Yeah, the drawing is from 10 years ago, and the pixel art is from last year.
Mm-hmm. Is this your card? Yeah, that's the picture. So this picture, my friend Holly, she actually painted the 2-story Furcadia mural in our house. And she also did a bunch of pixel artwork for the actual game of like some of the premium avatars and stuff. And I commissioned this pen and ink of her, of me and my dear friend Katzen, who lives here in Austin. As a surprise for Katzen, who Katzen said, "Oh, could she add some of my bunnies around our feet?" I said, "Okay, yeah, Holly, could you put in some bunnies?" So Katzen actually just had a litter of 5 baby bunnies.
That's awesome.
Bunnies in her community garden. So that's
sweet.
That's why there's bunnies.
Aww.
Yeah, Katzen was very pleasantly surprised. She loved the picture, and
I love it.
Yeah, she said she's thinking about getting a costume tail now that she's seen somebody draw her with one. She's had the tiger stripe tattoos for like decades, but she's never owned a costume tail.
No, I have some friends that are addicted to those.
Yeah, I've been a cat for ages, but I got myself a new tail like 3 years ago at Midwest Fur Fest. And I just found myself surprised just how much happier it makes me wearing it around, here in Austin or around the house. I'm like, I should have known that I liked wearing a tail that much. Maybe I never had one quite as bright for me as this one.
One of my streamer friends is that way. Anytime she's wearing her tail in her ears on the stream, she's so much happier than when she's not. It's just
who is?
Oh, one of my streamer friends.
Oh, okay. Well, tell her she's got the right idea. She's doing it right.
I think she pretty much has that nailed down.
Yeah. No, I thought for fun I'd have like a drawing of me and Katzen as like people with cat ears and tail. And the next one I'm going to have Holly do will just be like fully feline with fur all over us. But...
Yeah.
So here's one that we just got commissioned of me and my partner, Mr. Lupe himself, did that for us.
Who, the Dennis? Yeah, that looks
like Dennis did that. It's really happy with that.
Yeah, no, I have a science fiction book project that I'm thinking of doing a Kickstarter for at some point, and now I've gotten busier again with game design consulting, so it won't be anytime soon if I do it. But the idea is, I've had this book idea for years, and just this year I thought of a total change of setting. It's like, it's not on the surface of the earth, it's all underground, and here's why. Oh my god, this is going to be so great, it's so much better. But I thought, if I do a Kickstarter for it, I might say, well, we're going to have some interior black and white illustrations by Manda, and Stretch Goals will get us more interior illustrations because we can pay her for more art. And then there'll also be like a target level is like, if we hit this target, and I want to set it, at a point where there's very likely we'll hit it because I want this cover is like, okay, Dennis Lubé full color cover on the hardback, right? Because who wouldn't want that?
Exactly.
I'm sure Dennis would do it and would do a great job if we can if we can fund that. So yeah, I want to write this book, maybe do 2 or 3 books in this setting, but it might have to wait a while if I keep busy with. I mean, it's good to keep busy right now. I'm glad there's demand for our work right now as game developers. I hope there is a year from now. Game sales are up right now because people either still have jobs or haven't been out of work that long, or they got a little stimulus money. But the question is, 6 months from now, a year from now, if the economy suffered a lot of damage, are game sales going to be down like they are now? And
that's an interesting question. I hadn't even
keep my
considered that industry.
I want to keep feeding the family.
Yeah.
I think, well, for a lot of the game sales, a lot of it's those of us who are already addicts, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't expect it to drop too much, especially with the hype we have as of late, with the new consoles coming out.
Well, I think a lot of the people who only play a little are playing more now because it's something to do at home.
This is true.
Animal Crossing. I mean,
Oh,
we have
God,
3
that
game
blew up.
designers in the house, right? It's me, Emerald Flame, and Gar, or Ben's his real name. Emmy's just playing Animal Crossing nonstop, and Ben's helping her, decorate the island and hunt for butterflies and things. And then she plays with her daughter and her son and our friends who used to work for us on Furcadia that live here in town. And they're like, oh, there's a really special item for sale on my island. Come check out the shop if you want one. And they give each other recipes and mail each other gifts. And yeah, they sold like 5 million downloaded copies of Animal Crossing last month.
Wow.
Plus pretty much every physical copy they manufactured also sold. I don't know how many that was. And Switches are like $200 or $300 above their normal price if you can even find one. So,
It's ridiculous.
great. Yeah.
Glad I got mine when I did.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey!
Hey!
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
You guys can hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you
Yeah.
at the same time. This never happens.
Yes.
Oh.
This is like, put it on the calendar.
It's miraculous. Like, I can never get it to work on the first try.
Can't say that
There we go.
anymore.
Yeah, so who's all here? Hi, guys. It's been a while since I've been on these, but it's good to be here.
Good
Yeah,
to see you.
hi. Good to have you back.
So what did I miss?
Oh my gosh, you have missed, I,
What happened?
Lots of
yeah,
great-
well,
Just rambled on.
Over an hour.
Yeah, I know. I had other stuff I had to take care of first, but finally made it.
depending on how long this goes past now, this may wind up being another 2-parter episode. We'll see, because once it gets past about an hour 15, I start thinking about splitting it up. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's probably best to slice it into like bite-sized pieces.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. But, oh my gosh, it would be too long to just recap all the topics. That said, holy wow, have I got notes for this show.
I'm sure Dr. Cat had some interesting things to say. He's
Oh,
got
never.
Man.
Never. I got nothing.
Well, it's good to talk to you again, Dr. Cat.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice. I haven't. I don't think I've heard your voice since I was in New York. I forget.
No, not since you were here. Holy cow!
Yeah.
It has been that long.
I've just texted you since then. So.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah, I see that now.
Maybe you noticed in the last year I texted you a few times.
Just a bit. Yeah.
I'm not talking right now. Well, actually, I did text you right now. Because you were like,
you said to me to hurry up. Well, I hurried and I got in as soon as I could.
yeah. I got a link for you in the Discord chat. This is what you do next time you have audio problems. This fixes literally any problem in the universe.
Okay, any problem.
Any problem.
It's like the Hitchhiker's Guide to Problem Solving.
Yeah. So it's
Absolutely.
it's the Rub Some Bacon on it song.
That sounds
Brad,
restorative.
that'll be your favorite thing to do.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure what Jews can do if they're like Orthodox, but that's
Well, my family wouldn't eat bacon anyway, so
Hey, Dr. Cat, my family's Jewish. We raised kosher pigs, so it could
Oh,
be
good
done.
for you.
how do you have a kosher pig?
Well, you talk to my great grandfather and my Uncle Joseph about it; they'll explain to you. I just kept the fire burning in the smoke.
There's a process to it. I forget what it is, but there is a process.
So
Long pig,
when
perhaps?
a cow and a chicken love each other very much.
Yeah, I think this is an integrated stream.
It's a new episode on Podcast we got going on here.
Yeah.
Lord,
I
I
also
need
gotta
to stay
give you
up.
a
We
call
never
for
get
the
this
bacon
many
hotline
people.
here. No, I am 100% Jewish in ancestry on both my mom's and my dad's side. But I feel like when I eat a cheeseburger or a bacon cheeseburger, even better, or some pork chops or some, some pork ribs, I feel like, if anyone has any doubt about whether I practice and go to the synagogue, let me just lay that to rest right here. Give me that cheeseburger.
Exactly. The pork ribs do it for me.
I actually had.
Go, Harmony, go.
Yeah, I actually had a dorm buddy in college who that was their sign of protest against the family was that they put up a Christmas tree in the dorm room.
There you go. That's kind of cool.
We can't eat pork. We can't eat pork now. Not for religious reasons, mind you. The Catholic Church puts no obstacles to my consuming pork. My wife's corn allergy, however, does.
The too corn fed for her to tolerate?
And hers is particularly severe, right? So, I mean, like obvious stuff, corn syrup, cornstarch, corn derivatives like dextrose, xanthan gum, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, which is everywhere.
Maltodextrin. She can't have any of that, but it's even to the point where the eggs we buy, like we've had to identify which egg producers do and don't feed their chickens with corn.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's got to be tough.
So to say nothing of like pork, because almost all pig feed has corn in it to some degree, right?
Yeah, we grow just so much corn in this country. It's for pigs. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Don't buy the chicken brand I work with then, because they use a lot of corn.
As the caffeine addict I am, the very concept of a corn allergy sounds like hell for me, because that would mean no Mountain Dew, no Coca-Cola.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah,
I live on that.
You know what? It actually means that we can't get a lot of different kinds of coffee. There's only because even like within the process by which just by which coffee is, I don't know if it's the roasting process or whatever it is, but even there, a lot of those processing pipelines seem to have corn or corn additives coming in at some point. There's only two that we've identified. And thankfully, one of the ones is Tim Hortons, so we can at least buy Tim Hortons coffee grounds.
So speaking of Coke, can you guys do like the Mexican Cokes? They have sugar instead of corn syrup.
Oh, Fiona loves those.
If I could get them here, sure. But
so I found out the Coca-Cola company, they saw how many Americans were buying glass bottled Mexican Cokes, and they thought, okay, people want this product. They started quietly making glass bottled Coke with sugar in the United States and distributing them to a lot of stores where people buy them thinking it's a Mexican Coke. No, it's like the Mexican Coke formula made in the U.S. Cokes.
Mountain Dew does that a lot too. For the last few years, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, Kat, you just blew my brain. I've been contending for years with my family that glass bottle Coke is something special, that it doesn't taste the same as Coke out of a plastic bottle or a can. And they all look at me like I'm green and growing a horn out of my nose.
No, it's
absolutely right.
The corn syrup industry has sworn up and down this stuff is just the same as sugar. It's no better nor worse for you. It's just the same. And it's not true.
No, you're right. You're absolutely
right. You get more
right.
obesity and more diabetes from corn syrup than you do from the same number of calories worth of sugar. It's bad for you, and we should just use sugar instead. To whatever extent we're gonna sweeten things,
Well, it tastes better when you get rid of all of the additive crap too. Like, my kids have been saying that, like for the last couple of months, especially as we've identified, like, which flours do and don't have ascorbic acid or iron enrichment, by the way, corn derived. I've been getting more like, wow, Dad, these are the best cookies you've ever made from my daughter than I have in 2 years of cookie making prior to that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, even when I was younger, I didn't know about the health issues. Stuff with corn syrup just tasted a little off to me, or not as good, or like maybe this is a little unhealthy for me compared to sugar versions of products. So
I'll tell you another thing: brown sugar is that much better for you than white sugar.
yeah, I could believe that.
That brown sugar. I'm going to contend with that a little bit because at least most of the brown sugar I get here, the molassesy component of it is actually added back in, and it's corn derived.
Okay. Yeah, that's
it's corn derived.
That part. That's true. Yeah, you couldn't eat that. By the way, I put that coffee there. I have a lot of allergy. I don't have a corn allergy, but I've been drinking that coffee for about 2 years, so you can check on it. I get it from Amazon through the subscribe service.
Yeah, no, another product you have to watch out for is honey. Apparently, most of the honey sold in the United States is not just pure what comes out of a beehive and then some filtering, but it's got other stuff mixed in. But if you shop smart, you can get stuff that is literally just real honey, 100%.
Canadian honey too. We typically have to buy something that's been shipped across a large body of water. I think the current bottle of honey is from Australia.
Yeah, that's what
really funny listening to you guys because
go on, Klaus.
Living in France and listening to you with all the additive and anything problem, especially honey, because I was looking to buy some flower honey for my kids a couple of months ago, and I checked on many flavors, and it was funny because I was looking at all the different boxes and bottles of honey, and most of them with different names, brand names, were put in the supermarket by the same company. So it was called, let's say, Moon Lover honey, new honey, bio honey, whatever you want. 3 different kinds of honey. It was the same producer,
all owned by Kraft.
And when you looked at it, and we are in a place where you can buy from the producer directly, so that's not an issue usually. But when you looked at it, it came from different places all across not Europe but the world. So you could have a honey with mix from Eastern Europe, France, and then China or other places. So it was very, very interesting to just look at the small printed details on the back of the box. But it's really an issue, and I usually prefer to go to the producer itself because I'm sure of what he's giving to me.
Yeah,
we took it.
Most Americans really need to consume more of, though, don't you?
Yeah, well,
exercise.
I
need
in this day and age
set up downstairs so I can be exercising on that. That's what's been healthiest for me.
I have some I like running, long distance running. That's what I like. And being stuck at home was quite difficult at the beginning, but I have some way of running in my cave. But I found a solution because there's not a lot of people running at the rears of the day, so I usually run outside when it's not the time for people to run outside. That's better for me. And I almost never cross other persons, so I stay safe.
That's good. I went out to get my mail today, and it was harrowing. Because we're in New York, this is probably the deadliest place on the planet right now.
Yeah.
So I wore I wore an extra layer all over everything. I wore a mask, and then I wore a piece of cloth around that. I wore my sunglasses, my hat, my jacket with the hood cinched tight around my face, and just to go outside to go 2 feet to the mailbox. Well, it's more like 10 feet from the door.
So you're actually looking like Michael Jackson now.
Probably.
Is this where I get burnt in effigy for grumbling about having to even put a shirt on to go out and check the mail today?
Yes.
Yeah, well.
Yes.
Yeah. There are
Oh, no,
people
go on, Crane.
outside. There are still, several people milling around, and I think there's more people around than there were a few weeks ago because I think people are getting tired of it. But at the same time, it is not safe yet here.
Yeah.
There's so many people around, but there's viruses drifting through the air, so I got to be really careful. But yeah, I made it to the mailbox, and then I found that there was a box in the next building. Dr. Cat, you saw how our foyer looks, and when there's somebody in that hall, you can't get far enough away from them. So I had to go to the next building to get a box. It was super heavy, and people came to the door of that building while I was there getting my box.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't, I was about to ask them to hold the door open for me, which is normally a reasonable thing. But I'm like, okay, I should probably steer clear. So I kind of backed away. But yeah, and then when I got in, I had to peel off everything, put it on the wash, and wash my face and wash my hands, and then wash everything that I touched, and wash everything that what I touched is touched. And then we're still setting the boxes aside for 3 days, just to be on the safe side. People tell me I'm overkill, but I would rather do everything way more cautiously than slightly less cautiously than I need to.
You could probably do a day on those. By the way, I read while they have detected small amounts of virus, up to 72 hours on cardboard.
Yeah.
99% of the virus is gone within the first 10 hours of that period.
Okay.
So,
I mean, we get like the
what
plastic.
you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I would just feel more comfortable leaving it.
Sure.
It's like some things come in those plastic Amazon packages, and there's tape
Yeah.
on the boxes, staples, and you know what? I just say, okay, I write the date on it, and then I'll leave it. So
yeah, it was funny. I'm doing 3 days of work right now where I'm on video chat with my my friend Dr. Bird while she's working on her PhD and her science projects and various other things she does. And I'm working on my games. We like keep each other working, and not like just surfing the web or whatever. But she, a couple of days ago, she came back from the other room. She said, "Oh yeah, I was just on a phone call. A coalition of medical providers in New York called me, and they were getting advice on how to 3D print parts to replace pieces of masks and other PPE gear that have worn out."
nice.
And I said, "Wow, that's pretty impressive. Here's like the center of the disease, and they call you, the doctors call you for advice." She said, "Well, there can't be many people that are a molecular biologist who's into 3D printing and sewing and has a good working understanding of disease spreading mechanics and epidemiology." I said, "I guess so." I said,
that's quite a Venn diagram there.
I said, "How many do you think there are?" She said, "I don't know, but I bet you could fit all of us in one room."
Too true.
She was actually contacting not only medical research facilities and hospitals and stuff, but also medical insurance companies in the early days when no one was worried about it yet, and saying, here's some things that there's going to be shortages of, in a month or two, and here's what you should start looking into doing about it. So she's sharp. She's really sharp. She may be the smartest person I ever met.
Speaking of PPE here, anybody hear the case about the Native American medical center up in Washington State that contacted the federal government looking for supplies to treat COVID and were sent a shipment of body bags?
What?
No, I didn't.
Oh my god!
Holy crap.
I didn't see that yet.
Let me
You
actually
got a link to that
find
one?
that.
I'll drop it in the show notes.
Yeah, I will. Let me
That's short-sighted, to say the least.
let me get to my
my God.
sister's Facebook and get it from her. Okay.
All right. Well, then when you guys do that, I'm going to head out. I need to be functional for work meeting. So.
It was good to see you briefly,
Party.
Gollum.
What
It's
a
nice to
sleep.
see you, Gollum.
It's been good to hear you, Gollum.
And I will catch you guys next time, hopefully.
Okay, and you want this in linkage, correct?
Yeah, drop it in linkage because then I can kind of eventually incorporate it into show notes.
There you go.
Plus, then we can all click on it and read it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I got a
warning, not
bottle of
safe.
Coca-Cola here.
Here you go.
Ingredients, carbonated water, sugar,
Here's
Coca-Cola
the real food
concentrate,
you guys
and
need.
sucralose.
Ew, sucralose. Ew.
Yeah, sucralose isn't great. It's
Not a fan.
Yeah. It's based on the sugar molecule, so it
Oh my
is
gosh.
received by your tongue the same as the sugar molecule, but
It's not the same. It does not taste the same.
No, and it doesn't go through your body the same way if you have too much of it.
You don't want it to go through the same way, then it'll put weight on you.
Well, no, but your body doesn't treat it the same way.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point, is for your body to treat it differently and like pass it through without make it burn up energy or trigger diabetes or whatever. I'm an erythritol fan.
Yeah, the sugar alcohols are okay. Maltitol and stuff.
Well, see, I'm not a maltitol fan because a lot of the things that need some of the physical properties of sugar for cooking rather than just the sweetness, like you might put in a beverage. If you want to make a hard candy or stuff, you need to go to something like sugar alcohols, which have more of the physical properties. Mm-hmm. But maltitol, while it has low glycemic index, if you're diabetes, apparently, so they tell me, it has calories. It has half the calories of sugar.
Right.
So if you're thinking, I'm not only going to help my diabetes, I'm going to lose the weight I need to. No, you're going to be eating less than sugar, but still fully half as much. Whereas erythritol has 0 calories. Erythritol acts as dietary fiber, which we need more of anyway. One of my biggest discoveries in the last couple of years, I thought, okay, fiber, is to like help keep you regular, or maybe keep you from eating a bunch of high calorie stuff since you're eating fiber instead. I did find out it can buffer glycemic index some. If you have a bunch of stuff, your digestive system could digest at a certain pace, but you eat like a whole bunch of fiber first, and you could take like a fiber you mix into water, or you can just eat high fiber foods. It'll buffer it a little like buffered medicine, because it can't get through your fiber through the walls of your digestive system quite as fast. But what I found out that's really important and I have a salad every day now for lunch. I was doing that when I was working at Coolbit out in California too. All of your symbiotic bacteria in your gut biome, or a lot of them anyway, they eat fiber. The fiber you can't digest this. Yes, but your gut bacteria can. And they need it. You need a lot of those little guys to be thriving and healthy for you to be thriving and healthy. So you're feeding a part of you. To me, the symbiotic gut bacteria are part of you that just doesn't have your DNA. You're feeding those guys when you eat fiber, and you need to do it.
Yeah. Well, now you know.
Yay, fiber!
And no one
it's not only not fattening you and giving you diabetes like sugar, it's some of it's probably getting eaten by your gut bacteria. So I'm a big fan of erythritol sweetened products like Quest bars is one of my go-tos.
Oh, I like the Quest bar too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Have you had the Quest chocolate chip cookies?
Yes, everything Quest. I like everything they do. It's great.
Oh yeah, absolutely, great stuff.
I was gonna get Quest bars for the party to be like in the goodie bags. There's a cinnamon roll flavor, so of course,
very appropriate.
I was gonna put one in everybody's goodie bags, but they're like $2.39 a piece, and times 100 and some. I didn't have an extra $239 at the time. So yeah, it just wasn't in the budget for the party, but maybe for the next one, maybe for the 30th anniversary.
Next party, budget everything out, and then jack up the admission price $3.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so probably everybody here is familiar with it, but for your listeners, in case they're not familiar, we had a big party for the Ultima Dragons 25th anniversary a few years back, and I'm still planning on having a 30th anniversary party, so hopefully by 2022, in just under 2 years, it'll be safe to go out again, and everybody's going to be healthy again. So
Disneyland will be open again.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's still dangerous, we're just going to put it off, but we're still going to have it no matter what. So
we'll do it by Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that'll go over well. Hundreds of dragons trying to convene online in one meeting. I can see here with 7, 8 people. It's a little hard to keep.
We're already talking over each other.
Yeah.
We tried to do a campfire last night with the Scout Troop and the Cub Pack.
Yeah.
We had some successes, to be sure. My daughters, one's in Cubs, one's in Scouts, they put together a skit, so they presented that. That was great. And then my eldest daughter and one of her friends from Scouts, they, through Google Hangouts, came up with the script for a second skit. So, and then they carried it off, from their respective ends of the video chat. So we had some successes, and then pretty much every song we attempted to sing in unison ended in bitter failure.
Oh, you're going to have a couple microseconds of lag, yeah.
Oh, there was more than a couple of microseconds of lag, let me tell you. But, I mean, you know what? Like, at some point, it's just, this is something we've been noticing a lot with the Scouts, and this is something that I've been noticing because, of course, I'm part of so many different groups on Facebook that are all about scouting and Scouts Canada. And one of the things that's come up again and again and again is, these youth need they need social contact with each other. They do. And, they're not, sports is all canceled. Most of the school is canceled. Most of the stuff that they would normally, well, not canceled, but they're not, they're obviously not going to classes in most cases. And, especially as we're looking at summer looming, we're faced with the fact that, they don't have their sports teams. Classes are going to end at some point. They're not, Scouts with its virtual meetings that we've been trying to host could wind up being like the summer social activity that they have, just because we're already on that plan and we're there already, and nothing else is going to be their soccer teams aren't going to form and do things on Zoom, right? So
we've had a lot of old-time Furcadia players come back and start playing again to get in touch with people. I just got messaged by another one today who'd been away for 6 years, and he wants to get back in the volunteer program and bring back some of the old art and maps that he used to upload and get involved again. So it's,
I used to play Furcadia myself. I actually have some fond memories. I met a girlfriend there.
Oh, that's good. I have too, but I have kind of an unfair advantage at
that. Being the developer and all.
Yeah, no, you should peek in at our web client. Let me know what you think of it. play.furcadia.com. We just kind of quietly turned off the only for Kickstarter backers and monthly membership holders flag on that a few weeks ago, and we're like trying to maybe clean it up a little more before we do a big announcement on it. But we thought we'd like to get that to people while people are stuck at home looking for things to do right now. So it's
nice.
Still a thriving community. Still a lot more things I would like to do to add to it in the future. So we'll but just getting it available on the web. Do a lot. We'll see how it goes.
Back when go ahead.
Oh, say I heard Jackson your martial arts group gets together on Hangout.
Yeah, I've been teaching martial arts through Google Hangouts, and it really is just not the same. I don't feel the same burn.
Yeah.
And I don't see my students feeling the same burn. It's a little bit more difficult to do corrections, to keep an eye on each of them, and the latency, the quality of the video, and everything. There are lots of details that I don't catch with the.
Right, you can't see them as well. You can't hold their body to guide them. Like, okay, do the pose like this instead. Right?
Yeah, I can go around them to see how they're doing it. I can punch them to see if they are able to endure the punch or not, or if they're stable enough. I can't push them or throw them to see if the posture
definitely
is
drawbacks
correct.
and limitations.
Yeah. Right.
You need one of those machines that has a boxing glove on a spring. You just press the button and the boxing glove goes out at them in their house.
Yeah.
The art
it is not the same.
Based mostly based on building power through the bone structure and also throws and grappling.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to practice those when you're alone.
My teacher,
Or when. Mhm.
my teacher uses Zoom to offer us martial art lessons, but well, it's not. It's obviously not the same because we are mostly working in pairs usually when training. So when you're all alone at home and trying to replicate movements, it's not working. So I put it aside until it's the situation is better, because well, I can't correct myself. I'm just not that good now.
For sure.
And I don't know for you, but next week we're starting to loosening the situation in France, and normally we could start sending our kids back to school. And how to say that politely? No.
I would say
No such thing. No such thing here.
careful.
So my two kids, they are scaling the return to school. So they should return to school in end of May or start June, and the school years in France is done by the start of July. So I'm thinking about not sending them to school, but still there's the issue of of social activity for kids, and it's a situation because they want to see their friends. We can call them, but they want to. They can play with them. Some of them are playing Minecraft together, so that's nice. But they want to run and jump and do biking, running anywhere. That's not something you can do with social distancing and security right now. So that's complicated.
Yeah.
My kids. I'm so glad that we put the playset in the backyard.
Yeah,
and we did that. We did that like the year we moved in. Like we moved in the summer, and I think we moved in July, maybe June. And by August, I had like bought and installed the playset. And so I mean, it's been out there for years, and it's it's definitely got some wear and tear on it. But all the playgrounds are closed, and I am the only house on the block with 3 swings and a slide in my backyard.
So you are the most
a
popular
trampoline.
dad in the neighborhood.
Well, but nobody can come over anyways, right?
Yeah.
But my kids, are outside and they're bouncing on the trampoline and they're, swings and slides. And it's like, I'm so glad they have that. I kind of feel bad for some of the other families that don't. But at the same time, it's like, oh man, I'm so glad we, pulled the trigger on that one when we did, because, like that's it. And I mean, like, my kids actually like, they've been having some fun with it too, because their teachers have been really on the ball. Delivering lessons, but also making sure that they do very regular check. Like, 3 or 4 days a week. All of my 3 daughters have video conferences with their classes. Sometimes in like, sometimes in like small group stuff. So it's like, 4 or 5 kids plus the teacher having a video conference, sometimes with whoever can show up. And my one daughter, my youngest, has made the point, and she's also teaching me just what my Wi-Fi coverage is, because she'll like grab her laptop, and as long as it's not pouring down rain outside, she'll throw on a jacket if she needs to, if it's a little bit cool, or skip the jacket if it's warm enough. But she'll like go out and she'll park herself at the top of the slide or on a swing or on the trampoline, and that's where she'll take the video conference from her class from.
Nice.
It's funny, right? And I mean, like, they've got their bicycles, they go for rides. I've introduced them to the game of Munzie, which is kind of like geocaching, except that instead of finding a potentially contaminated physical box, you're looking for QR codes that you just scan with your phone.
Yeah, at the same distance.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just you hold up your phone and take a photo, right? So, there's no risk of contact there. It's just a little QR code stuck to like a light post or a power box or something, whatever. So we've been playing that. And then... but one thing on the subject of like, their friends. I mean, obviously they can't see their friends. Yeah, my kids have been playing Minecraft too and doing like Google Hangouts with people and Skype and whatever else. But specifically around the topic of birthdays, I like what's emerged here as a thing that's been happening. And actually, I'm taking part in one tomorrow. Yeah, because we're recording this on Thursday and tomorrow is Friday. Taking part in this on Friday, kind of in the evening. One of my daughter's friends from grade 3 is, it's her birthday on Friday. And so obviously we, her friends can't all come to the house, but what we're all going to do is, like all the people who would have normally been invited to her birthday party are going to get into our cars and we're going to meet at a predetermined place. We're going to all stay in our cars, but we're going to meet at a predetermined place and then drive in parade fashion past to the house.
Excellent.
With like flags and happy birthday signs and whatever else we can muster, right?
Well, that's adorable.
That is charming. That's very nice of you.
And this is something I was talking about in the scouting podcast, actually. And it's kind of one of those things that's like, I mean, obviously I can't wait for the day when birthday parties are able to happen in the way that they normally do. But there's been a lot of cool little things that have come along, just as a result of people like trying to find connection and find community in this time when we can't be together. And I hope some of them don't go away, I love the fact that my neighbors and like everybody up and down the block, people that, I've lived here for 8 years and I know some of the families, but I don't know all of them. But now, and I mean, some of them have been like totally like, they keep to themselves. I never even see them coming out of their house. Right. But now everybody, like warm, sunny evening, like tonight, every family will put their chairs. And if they've got kids, there'll be like chalk or whatever. They'll set it up in their driveway. The people across the street have a fire pit. And we're all outside. We're keeping to ourselves, or we're keeping to our own properties. We're keeping that social distancing happening. But it's like, holy crap, this feels like a community for the first time since I've ever been here. I hope that doesn't go away.
And I envy you that, because where I live is not a very good place. I mean, the closest we get to community is everybody looking nervously out their window when two of the neighbors are screaming at each other in their yard at 2:00 in the morning.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess it's not a universally applicable thing, but
it's tough here because we live in a small apartment building, and our apartment is very small, and all the other units are small, and the hallway to it is small, and the street's narrow, and it's lined with other apartment buildings. So
yeah,
it's really tough to social distance here. But we've been staying inside as much as possible, but it's hard.
I mean, like it's definitely not that difficult here, both because, I live in suburbia, I live in a house, and also, just because, population density here, even though this is technically a city, is not anywhere near New York levels, or, Northern Italy levels, or Spain, or pick a place. It's nowhere near any of that. But actually, you said a couple of things earlier that, just made me think of like my wife is at a shift at the hospital right now.
Oh gosh.
I don't think she's there is a dedicated COVID unit there, although like I don't think I think the most they've had is like 6 patients at once, but don't quote me on that. But like I don't think that's where she's working tonight. I think she's working on another unit because obviously COVID is a thing, although we've done very good here at like keeping case counts low.
That's good.
In my region. If you look at the stats for Alberta overall, they kind of suck. But if you break it down geographically, Edmonton's doing pretty good. It's Calgary that is really the focus of like where things have gone haywire. But there are still other patients at the hospital, right?
Yeah.
There's still patients. Yeah, there's still neurotrauma patients. There's still cardiac patients, still cancer patients. And so she's going to be working on one of those other units. So I'm not really worried about, her potential for being exposed to the virus. And I'm not really worried about myself or my kids, being exposed through her. That said, I'm still going to meet her at the door. I'm still going to Lysol wipe the hell out of everything that's in her pockets. all of her clothes are going to come off and go into the laundry machine, and she's going to run upstairs for a shower. But so I mean, like, those precautions are still there, but still, like, I'm married to someone on the front lines. It's the way life goes. But no, the other thing I was thinking of was Lysol wipes. I had to run out today to buy. I didn't even mean to buy Lysol wipes, but we had just run out, and I'm not really worried about that because, like, we have other stuff that we could use. But I went to one store. I needed to buy a couple of things, and they had a container of Lysol wipes there on the shelf, so I grabbed it. Whatever.
I'm already having trouble believing your story.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I found like one thing of Lysol wipes. The guy further up the aisle had the limit of 2 under his arm, but there was one left on the shelf, so I grabbed it.
How quickly did the situation escalate into Mad Max?
It didn't, but I was struck by the fact that 2 or 3 people were like, "Oh my gosh, where did you find that?" I'm like, and I even offered it to a couple of them. I was just like, you know what? I don't actually need it that bad. Like, if you're really worried, take it. And they were like, no, thanks. But it's like, okay, well, it's what my wife's dad actually one store, and I don't know where this was, but you know how some grocery stores will do like the thing where, if you buy so many groceries, then you get your free gift with purchase kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lysol wipes. if you hit the limit for whatever it was that week, hey, here's your free thing of 80 Lysol wipes.
Yeah, it's getting better in France, but at the start of the epidemic, and when it started to the movement to stay at home, and I had to go to the supermarket to buy everything I need. It was impressive. There was nobody in the supermarket because they were only letting a few people get in at the time. And some of the shelves were empty, but they stayed that way for many weeks until they started to get new stuff on it. It's not produce or anything you need to eat. No, it was household items that people buy. Not only toilet paper, but yes, I saw people getting out with the shopping cart, so full of things. It was crumbling under the weight. It was ridiculous. But some of the items were just not here for you to buy. And while they did go by, it was strange to see that some shops that have nothing to do with household items would start to sell hydroalcoholic gel and things like that to clean your hands, and not in small quantities, in very in volume. And while when you would go to the place would sell them, they had none. And
the whole reselling thing just got crazy.
It was impressive, and we have an issue in France right now because, masks that you have to wear on the face are not are usually reserved for anything for the health establishments like hospitals and things like that, and there's a shortage of them. But on the same time, the French government allowed a supermarket to sell them too. So there's a problem here because we are already on a shortage for our hospitals, but the supermarkets have a way of getting them and selling them. So it's quite a strange thing. I wonder how it will move out of this situation. And what will
sorry, go on.
On what will keep from it? I don't know. Will we get our lessons and change our ways, or will it just go like it was before? I don't know.
I sure hope, especially given that we had, cut CDC stuff and programs and shut down the pandemic task force that Obama set up just a few years earlier, medical research. I hope we wise up about a lot of that stuff. Time will tell.
On the supply side, one of the podcasts I was listening to, was this maybe Kevin Williamson? I can't even remember. But someone was making the interesting point that, we've gotten to this, like, we've really tried over the last couple of decades, especially, to optimize supply chain. We talk about, like, we're all computer nerds here. Most of us are computer nerds here. So the concept of, like, just-in-time compilation is not foreign to us. But that just-in-time concept has also really been applied to supply chain. It used to be the case that grocery stores would maintain warehouses where they would stock significant amounts of extra supplies of non-perishable items, not just foodstuffs, but also the household stuff, right? And those have largely gone by the wayside in favor of, sort of more optimized ordering systems, just-in-time deliveries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and that inefficiency.
That's really great.
Help you during disruptive times in society,
Right.
and finding that out. Walmart, they worked out a system where they were, reducing and eventually even eliminating some warehouses, but they set things up so they'd say, oh, okay, we scheduled everything, so here's like 2 truckloads of televisions coming from this manufacturer, and we're going to schedule them so they arrive right when we have 2 trucks heading out to Walmart supercenters to take some televisions to them. It never went into the warehouse. They would just pull up, say, okay, here's our Walmart truck, take it out of your truck in our truck, boom. And they saved all the trouble of having, guys there twice, once on unloading, once unloading, carry it halfway into it. No, it's just like truck to truck, boom, efficient.
And I mean, that's great during, times when that's great during times when demand is normal, right? But yeah, when you have these surges in buying, then all of a sudden it's like, well, oh, we don't have spares. Crap. Well, guess we're waiting. So yeah, like that's maybe something that who knows, maybe that's something we'll see change too, right? Sort of that, maybe not a complete return to, like, high levels of inefficiency with large warehouses maintaining large residual volumes, but some understanding that, okay, yeah, it is actually good to have a bit of a buffer there.
Local producing of products is something that will come back to. It was an issue in France, as I said, with surgeon masks and things like that, and some of medicines that you had to take because they're produced elsewhere, and elsewhere was not accessible then. So the government started to dress a list of important things that we should have industries producing on French territory again. So maybe that's a change we'll see too later.
I will say,
returning to producing on our soil and not depending on a foreign country to producing important things for us.
Yeah, well, I will say one thing. You mentioned masks earlier, and I will say, like, I like the fact that, I mean, even though I live in a city, it is also like, if you walk 2 blocks north of me, you are in farmland. Okay, yeah. So like we are the last city on the edge of rural area, and the thing about that is, and I mean, this is not applicable in every part of the world, but it is a thing here. We, for the longest time, have the deer mouse is one of our native species in the area, and they're kind of funny looking critters. And they're carriers for a rather nasty respiratory virus. So being in a community that has a significant amount of stores oriented towards farm supply, it's actually relatively easy to get good masks here.
Yeah.
because you need them. If you're doing work, like, if you're working 8 hours a day in a barn where mice have been, you need an N95. There's no and ifs or buts about it.
I have one for when I was doing engraving a couple of years ago to avoid inhaling little metal pieces. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pull it out now. They say not to, but I think they only did that just so you don't like buy them all up, so doctors can't get them. But the one I already used, it's ratty, but it's still serviceable. So darn it, I'm gonna keep using it.
My friend published a prediction for return to school. I posted the image. I'm going to translate it. It's a prediction for going back to school. Day 1, everyone is wearing face masks. Day 2, teacher, my son doesn't know where he left his face mask. Teacher, my daughter says she put on her friend's face mask. Day 3, teacher, Peter blew his nose with my son's face mask. Teacher, my son exchanged his face mask for a stick bot. Day 4, teacher, my son did not eat his lunch because he didn't know how to remove his face mask. Day 5, teacher, my son made a hole on his face mask so he could breathe better.
Well, you know what? That's that was actually my wife's observation too.
Teacher, my son lost his socks and his face mask.
And his face mask.
I feel bad for laughing, but that is so true to the kind of places I grew up in and went to school.
And even then, it's my oldest kid may, and I say may, keep his face mask at school. But my smaller kid, while it does understand, it's quite complicated to make him keep the social distancing and the face masks too.
It's harder for kids to understand. It is, right?
And even then, I guess you see it too. When people, not just kids, are starting to getting together in a place, the intelligence level starts to plummet. So yeah, it's happening with kids. It's happening with adults too. If X says, "Hey, I don't need that face mask," then I can remove it too. So
oh yeah, it'll be a chain effect for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be complicated. So people are thinking about school, and their idea behind reopening the school is that you have only half class or smaller classes, but that helps keep social distancing, maybe in the classes, because you can keep one place unoccupied with the other people sitting, keeping their space. But then when they have to get to lunch and they have to have a break in the backyard and start playing.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna run around, play.
It's gonna be complicated.
But yeah, they can't be doing that right now, and it's going to be really difficult to control them.
They may
the government here. Oh, sorry.
No, they may keep the masks, but if they touch and they play and they interact. So
they haven't made masks mandatory here yet. I don't know if they're going to, because like I say, this part of the province, like our curve is basically like we're flatlined already.
Oh, wow.
So we're doing good. But like our government just came out with they have a three-pronged, or not three-pronged, that's the wrong word. Their plan for the resumption of school there's like a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, right? So hopefully it goes according to plan A. If not, here's the fallback. And if that falls through, here's the other fallback. None of the three scenarios involves our kids getting back to school this year. In-person school is done. All school will be delivered online, e-learning, whatever, for the remainder of the year.
That's the best idea, I think.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, honestly, like, I mean, all of my kids are on board with it. Like, well, I mean, they got me for a dad, so they better be on board with it. But you know, like they're fine with it for the most part. I mean, yeah, they miss seeing their friends, but they miss the social aspect, right? The learning aspect is happening. Their teachers are on the ball like no tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like they were out of the gate. Like, you know, we for us it was literally like Friday. The word was, nah, nothing's going to happen. See you Monday. By Sunday, school had been canceled.
Oh.
And that was the week before spring break. So their teachers kind of pushed ahead with whatever they had. And they must have worked just feverishly over spring break, because the Monday after spring break, they hit the ground running. And it's been like just solid ever since, you know. And I mean, using all sorts of great, and in some cases not so great. Some of the web apps are a little bit janky, but whatever. Lots of great tools, right? So, you know, like Google Classroom, Khan Academy, just all the good stuff. Whatever. In none of the scenarios do my children go back to school this year. They'll finish up this year e-learning. Fine, whatever. In 2 of the 3 scenarios, they will be back in school in September. And the question is, you know, whether that'll be an essentially full resumption of classes more or less as normal, or with some additional measures in place, staging classes so that, you know, they don't have more than a certain critical mass of people in a room at any one time, things like that. The third scenario is, of course, no, I guess we're doing e-learning straight through into September, but whatever. If I have one hope, and I realize that this is probably a hope against hope, but if I have one hope, and I outlined this to my daughter's scout troop, there's a town in Alberta called Innisfree. It was not always called Innisfree. It used to be called Delnort. It's kind of a lame name in my opinion, but there it is. And we drive past Innisfree, well, not so much anymore. Obviously, we're not visiting family, but my wife's family, to get to where she's from, to get to where her folks still live, we have to drive past Innisfree. And then obviously to get home, we drive past it again. And every time we drive past, just south of Innisfree is Birch Lake. And in the northern part of Birch Lake, there's a very distinct, very striking island. And I notice this thing pretty much every time I drive past. It's that kind of island. And it turns out that that island was instrumental in the town changing names, because when the Bank of Commerce, the president of the Bank of Commerce, touring through Alberta probably over a century ago, stopped by the town of Innisfree, he offered to build a bank there on the condition that they change the name from Delnort to Innisfree, because to his mind, the island in the lake looked very like the Isle of Innisfree of Irish fame. It's a very striking island. And my hope, possibly against hope, is that I should like very much to take the scouts and reach the summit of the island and camp there. We'll see if that happens. But there it is. There's a little Alberta history for you. But yeah, I mean, in-person stuff is basically canceled all the way through till at least September. I honestly hope that my eldest is able to go back to school starting September, because one of the reasons she chose the school she did, like, she has already set in her mind, she wants to be a chef, and in particular a baker. That is her thing. And one of the reasons she chose the school she chose, she was hemming and hawing between 2 different junior high schools in the area, was she met the cooking teacher at this one school, and the cooking teacher, like, I mean, I think the first thing that she has the grade 7s do is like learn how to properly clean and cook a chicken, like a whole chicken. Like that's where she starts. I think I started in grade 7 with French toast.
I started in grade 9 making biscuits.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I mean, the minute she went through that presentation, she's just like, I got to go here. Like, I need to go here. Yeah.
That is hardcore.
And I honestly, for no other reason than that, I really hope school is on in September, because, yeah.
Well, school isn't an issue in France. I think that by September we'll have everybody going back to school. But the summertime may be more complicated because, well, I have to work, and my ex-wife too, and we can't stay at home and keep the kids at home for whole summer. So I don't know how it will work. We can't obviously go on vacation. We can't stay at home. We can have
Summer
the
camps.
grandparents we can have all the grandparents take the kids all the time. I don't know. It's gonna be a complicated summertime this year.
One thing they did here, and I mean, agree with this or disagree with this, I'm not actually even sure how I feel, but you know what? A lot of our medical staff are in that exact circumstance, right? A lot of our emergency response staff are in that exact circumstance. They're, you know, they're single parents, or they're a working family. Mom and dad are both working, sometimes at the same hospital even. What do they do about the fact that there's kids at home that can't be left at home alone? And so, like, initially when the schools closed, all of the like daycare centers and day homes and all of that stuff got shut down as well. A couple of weeks later, they allowed a limited reopening of these facilities for children of essential workers in families where, either a single parent or both parents were in essential job, like whatever the title, whatever the term is, were essential workers who were not transitioned to working from home.
Well, yeah, we have the same thing in France, but
and I mean, like, it's an imperfect solution, but like you say, what are you gonna do, right? You're a doctor, you can't.
My former wife is a doctor, so she works in pediatrics. So she's around kids all the day, and she could have had that solution, putting her kids through daycare, but it was limited to person working at the hospitals or being doctors in our town. So it was already people with a high probability of being in contact with COVID patients. So, we found another way because, no, we didn't want to take that risk. And I consider myself lucky because my parents, which usually live 100 kilometers from me, were in our town at the start of the situation. And like some of you know, I'm divorced since the end of last year, and I bought a new house. Yeah, I bought a house on the day of my birthday. Yeah, so that's and yes, situation.
Happy
and
birthday
we were working.
To you.
Yeah, I'm using all my birthday money to buy a house now. Not that much. But yeah, so we were working in it, and they decided to stay with us in that new house. So we did everything to put them in a good environment in that house. So I have that solution. My parents are keeping my kids, but even they, with all the goodwill that they have, they can't stay for an extended period of time. It's already 2 months.
Yeah.
So at one moment they will have to go back to their own house and see how things fare in that place too. And when that happens, what will we do? Will we put the kids to school, to daycare, I don't know. It's a conundrum for me.
Yeah. We've been fortunate with our family, and I mean, like, the choices that my wife and I have made have not been without cost, obviously. But, like, we made the decision some years ago to structure our lives in such a way that there's always one of us at home with the kids. So, my jobs, right, whether it was, me at the pipeline company or now me doing the cybersecurity thing, my jobs in general conform to that, sort of 8 to 4, 40-hour daytime hour work week schedule. More if I'm on projects, more if I'm away, obviously. But, in general, I just have that 40-hour-a-week daytime job. And fortunately, I can do that from home. Like, I barely go into my office even when there isn't a pandemic. So it's not, like that really hasn't changed all that much. And then, of course, she is a float. So, she's a registered nurse, but she's what's considered a casual float. So she can basically take shift, like they offer her all sorts of shifts, and she can pick and choose which ones she wants to go for, which predominantly are evening shifts, which is why she's not home now. And that works for us, right? Does that mean that, our family income is, measurably less than any of our children's peers' families where both of their parents are working and, a lot of them have like patch jobs, oil patch jobs? Yeah, probably. I certainly don't have a new truck every 2 years. But on the other hand, the transition into this period of lockdown and isolation, or whatever you want to call it, it was a lot less painful for us than it was for other families in the area, and even in our sort of like immediate circles, or our kids' immediate circles of friends. A lot of their families struggled mightily making that transition, right? Whether that's because, both parents were working and they had set up lives in such a way that, like that worked around the fact that the kids weren't going to be at home anyways. Or, you have families where one, or now maybe in some cases both of the parents are in, quote, non-essential fields, and so have been furloughed or temporarily let go, or maybe the business is even just closed outright. I've started to see a few places come up for lease around here that, it's like, oh man, I used to really like the cookies they made. So, like we've been fortunate. We've weathered this, and the transition to having the kids at home was not painless, but it was certainly a lot less painful than other families in the region have experienced. And going forward, into the summer, we're not going to have to make those difficult decisions about burning up more of the grandparents' goodwill or going to, a day home or something like that, right? Like, it's business as usual for us. But there's a lot of families around here who are struggling.
Yeah, it's gonna be complicated, I think. But
Yes.
the positive thing for me and for some of my coworkers too is that there's an emphasis now on working from home.
Yeah, a lot of us have discovered just what meetings could have been settled with an email.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Obviously, you can't replicate everything with working from home because you need some action for my work to be done with other persons. Yes, it works, but it's not always that efficient. Because
it's funny to me to see everybody else adjust to working from home, because of course I've been doing it for many years. For Katie, it was always a distributed company, run entirely out of our homes, and we've got a guy in Germany and as well as people around the U.S., Canada, and I've been doing game design consulting now for 4 years. One of my clients has flown me to Vancouver, Canada, like half a dozen times. They're the only one. Everybody else I've just dealt with, over video chat and email and Google Docs and so forth.
Well, that's the thing, right?
It
I mean,
works.
it mostly works, right?
Yeah.
I say mostly because, so like my line of work is industrial cybersecurity. In general, best practice for a secure industrial cyber environment is for it to be, if not, you'll find a lot of people who push, probably correctly, the notion that the air gap is a myth, because in most cases it is, right? Outside of the nuclear industry, your control system does connect out, almost assuredly, because the production accountants want their numbers. That said, most industrial control systems, if they are set up correctly and if the networks have been properly segmented and layered, most industrial control systems are not directly accessible from the internet. So for someone in my line of work, there's a lot that I can do to support my clients, but there are certain categories of work that have to be deferred until such time as I am actually able to be there in person.
Well, with cybersecurity, as with anything else, the weakest link is always going to be the end user.
Layer 8, man. It's a layer 8 problem.
Layer 8, I don't get that reference.
That's a networking joke. So we talk
person-
about the seven layers of the network stack, and layer 8 is the user.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like how we called it when I did Dell Tech support, we called that a PEBCAC, problem that exists
Yeah,
between keyboard and chair.
ID10T.
Yeah, but that's for application support. For networking, it's layer 8.
The reason I mentioned cybersecurity specifically is there was a time I was working the business laptop account, which also meant the government account for Dell.
Sure.
A United States military colonel called in with this classified PC, saying that he let his 13-year-old son have access to it for an hour while he was at the work, at the base. And all of a sudden, there was all sorts of rather interesting pop-ups that I don't think I need to repeat here.
I think we can all guess what the content of those pop-ups may have been.
And he needed to know how to get that cleaned up quickly and how to keep it from his admin. And again, this was an 06 Fulbird colonel asking how to keep it from his superiors that he let his kid mess with his secured government laptop.
Yeah. That's been like the one, and I say this more as a parent. I mean, like, I follow a lot of cybersecurity news feeds. There's been just all manner of stuff that has cropped up around this. Because, I mean, if you think about it, especially because in a lot of cases, the lockdown happened fast and companies had to think on their feet on the fly, and they had to come up with the best solution they could in a very, very short amount of time. So we're seeing all kinds of interesting issues in cybersecurity right now. Like,
Go ahead.
For IoT has noted a increase in the amount of RDP-enabled endpoints connected to the internet. Because you know what? People need remote access. Remote desktop protocol is right there. The fact that it has notable the fact that it has, when it's especially Blue Keep, I think is the major RDP vulnerability that's still out there right now. Like, there's RDP, if you don't keep it patched to the latest, like it's a vulnerability. But equally, you know what? If they didn't have a more robust solution in place and they needed to give their people access by Monday morning, it's what they went with, right? And that sucks. But equally, like, business continuity sometimes means that you do something that sucks. So there's been all kinds of cybersecurity issues. For me, honestly, my biggest moment of terror in all of this has been the fact that, now my 6-year-old has regular and consistent access to an internet-connected device that she has come to regard as her own. And me as a parent, I know in the back of my mind that that's not good. Like that there's issues surrounding that. And so, I mean, obviously, with my clients, I'm working to help them deal with the transition to remote work as they need support with that. But then, at home, I'm like, trying to leverage all of like the parenting podcasts that I also listen to. And just like, okay, well, hang on. Okay, so I need to give my 6-year-old access to an internet-connected device because she needs to keep doing her schooling. But what measures can I, as the parent, then put in place to make sure that, she's not being exposed to materials I wouldn't want to be exposed to. She's not consuming too much time in front of this, like all of this stuff. And it's just like, I think I'd rather be dealing with viruses again, I think I'd rather be dealing with malware.
You're making me feel far more secure in my decision to never have children.
I mean, I love having kids. I love my 4 kids to death, and I would happily die for any or all of them. But yeah, there's, when you choose to create a child and just the responsibility that attends raising that child into a functional adult without too much baggage. There is no game. There is no computer game, not even the hardest core roguelike imaginable, that has that kind of difficulty curve.
And games are an issue too. Recently, to branch onto something different slightly, I bought out Dragon Quest XI because
I like that game.
I love the Dragon Quest games, and it was I wanted to play it, so I bought it on PC. And both my kids saw me playing, and they wanted to start their own game, so we started to play it on the PC. And since we have a Switch 2, I bought it on Switch, so two could play together. And barring the very frustrating cloud save from Steam that crushed our advanced games of saves with a very, very early one, we were able to progress through the game. And it's sometimes the stories, most of them are not very, very hardcore. It's not Dark Souls, it's Dragon Quest. But sometimes the stories can be quite dark. And there's one in particular with a mermaid. I don't know if you played that part in the game.
I've beaten. That's the only PlayStation game I've ever platinumed. But please continue.
Yeah, and you were asked to find a long lost lover, which was a fisherman, and I spoiled the story for those who don't know. But anyway, and you finally found that the fisherman was ostracized by his community because he were to marry with another girl, but fell in love with a mermaid, and things don't go well, let's say that way. And in the end, when you are telling the truth to the mermaid, well, she decided to commit suicide by going to the land and return to the sea, which is the way they cannot do in that game, because once they walk on the land, as soon as they return, they disappear as they turn to water. So, well, that's something sometimes very hardcore for a small kid.
Reference to the Little Mermaid, the original story where she can't go into water, or she becomes bubbles and dies.
Yes, but well, try to explain that to a 6-year-old kid, which up until now were just happy to play and bash for the monsters. That's not something very easy, and it's not the most terrible game that you can see. And it's sometimes just managing the kid's emotion, trying to help him understand what's happening. It's not easy.
Well, a lot of what I liked about Dragon Quest XI was the combination of playing a lot of the classic fantasy RPG and story cliches to the hilt, while also completely subverting others. I mean, I really like the fact that you're played up to be this legendary hero, then you go to the first town. Is this going to be spoilers for anybody, by the way? Because I figure most people here have already played Dragon Quest XI.
I played.
but without spoiling it too far, you learn very quickly why being the legendary hero prophesied in history for hundreds of years can be a very, very bad thing.
Yep. And with reasons.
And that's about as specific as I'll get, because that's a game I highly recommend people play.
And it's a very good game. But if you have a Nintendo Switch, play it on the Switch.
The Switch version is a superior one, as I've been told.
Duly noted. It's on my wish list. So
it is. I have both the PC version and the Switch version, and okay, it's very, very superficial for me. But one of the things in the Switch that is much better that in the PC version is that well, I like to change my outfit in my game when I am allowed to. And in the PC version, you have to wear it as equipment. So you have to choose between your looks and the bonuses for the stats of your character. While on the Switch, as soon as you acquire everything that is needed to switch to a new visual style, you can choose to keep that style, even if you change your equipment with a new armor or scarf or whatever you want. And it's like I said, it's very superficial, but it's very frustrating on the PC to have all that good equipment that gives you a new look and not being able to put it on because, well, the stats are just too bad. And another thing, but that's the purist in me, is that the Switch version allows you to play with Japanese voices.
Well, from what I remember, the original 11 didn't have Japanese voices. They added. Oh no, wait, that was 8.
Yep, Japanese version was added back to the Occidental versions with the Switch version.
Huh? I didn't know that. Thank you for letting me know.
But I'd say that because there's no other localization. It's either English or Japanese. So I'm playing the game usually either in full English with English voiceovers or Japanese voiceovers, but not in French. But
do they have French language subtitling?
Yes, but again, when I can, I don't use French language because of 2 reasons. The first one is usually the translation are a little bit silly, but that's normal. And the second point is more because when you are looking for reference on the internet and you want to get, you are stuck in the game, well, there's a lot much more references when you put in the English version than the French version. So easier to get unstuck, let's say.
Well, I can certainly understand that.
And like I said, translation is not always the same. It's quite complicated because they don't just take the name and translate it in French. Sometimes the character's name are completely different from one version to one another.
That's been really bad with Dragon Quest for decades, honestly.
Something that always annoyed me is the copper sword. It should have been bronze sword. There are no copper swords. There were never copper swords.
Oh, I'm well familiar, but wasn't it copper sword in the original Japanese as well?
I don't know. But even then, if they did a localization, it should have been bronze sword.
Yeah, you can adapt with localizations to make sense, if you will, but it's an issue with a lot of things. At least there's some consistency between the translations in each of the versions. That's good.
If you want to join the Ultima Dragons, you can do so at udic.org, where you can choose your very own dragon name. You can also find the Ultima Dragons on Facebook. We have a Facebook group there. And you can follow at Ultima Dragons on Twitter, or join them on Discord. And if you're feeling really old school, you can even fire up a Telnet client and check out the Weremount. Hit up the show notes for links to all of these. If you want to participate more directly in the podcast, you can send us an email, or if you're feeling a little bit braver, leave us a voice message in one of 3 places: the podcast website, our Facebook page, or on anchor.fm. And you're also welcome to join us on our Discord server to chat with us, to lurk, or even contribute to podcast recordings when they happen. And again, links in the show notes. If you'd like to support Spam Humbug, you can do so at patreon.com/ultimacodex, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to episodes the day before they go live to the general public. You'll also get access to behind-the-scenes audio when we have some to share, and possibly other interesting content. But we also welcome your moral support. You can like the Ultima series on Facebook, follow at Ultima Codex on Twitter, or leave the podcast a review on iTunes. And you're also welcome to share our episodes with your friends and social media circles. Spam Humbug is a production of the Ultima Codex. You can find show notes online at spamhumbug.com. Thank you for listening, and until next time, be virtuous.